As someone who is a compulsive gambler, I am very, very worried about this epidemic of gambling addiction that I see taking the world by storm, that is not showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon. It really, really does petrify me. My name's Matt. I'm a compulsive gambler in recovery, and I like to think of myself as your mind and movement mentor, here to help you. So, as I say, I feel like this is a real problem, and it has been for a while, and it's starting to accelerate for worse, and the trajectory just does not look good. I feel like there's a three-pronged kind of trifecta going on here that is whipping up a perfect storm for this as an escalating, vastly escalating problem. The first is the continuation of normalizing/glamorizing gambling. Now, to some level, we understand it better as an addiction, but on the whole, the mainstream messaging is still that gambling is fun, it's enjoyable, it's a status thing in some ways. It's the James Bond Casino Royale in the tuxedo, standing next to the roulette wheel with a cocktail, shaken, not stirred, gambling tens of thousands of pounds. It's Drake or Floyd Mayweather showing their Super Bowl winning gambling ticket for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's kind of a status, a clout type behavior. Now, I know for some people, of course, gambling can be recreational, it can be fun. I understand that. But there is, in a world that is kind of competing for status on social media of people putting their best foot forward, this kind of messaging just does not help. It really doesn't. You still see the blurb of like, if the fun stops, stop, said at like 10 times the speed of all the rest of the words at the end of the radio adverts or the television adverts. But not enough focus is given into that. It's given into the idea of your dreams still await you as a gambling journey. All your prayers could be answered, whether it's the Euro Millions lottery jackpot constantly being waved in your face, or some of the stuff that I mentioned earlier of celebrities, rappers, actors, that kind of thing. Especially when you've got these celebrity endorsements now, Chris Rock, Jamie Foxx, all the big names doing the BetMGM type thing. It's just playing into that. This is where it's at. This is what you should be doing. We're the cool kids. Come with us. And it's not explaining the risks in anywhere near as much that we know are problematic for many, many people, including myself. The second part of it, I think, is people's attention spans and lack of capacity to be in the moment, to want to have instant gratification, for us to not necessarily be able to be at peace with ourselves, to be at ease, to constantly have shopping updates, WhatsApp notifications, fast food deliveries, new Netflix programs, constantly just barraged in front of our frame of reference constantly, just has kind of shortened our attention spans, skewed our dopamine receptors, made us into kind of more frenetic, kind of frantic people that are way, way, way lower threshold of boredom, are able to kind of sit, unamused, just in their own headspace, staring at a brick wall and be okay, rather than just like the phone's got to come out, check this app, check that app, watch a little YouTube video, listen to a bit of music. And there's nothing inherently wrong with some of those things, but I think that we really just cannot be bored anymore. And a lot of the AI algorithms, the social media platform, the real technological powerhouses, they really kind of play into that. They do play into the fact that, you look at a lot of what content does best online. It's the short form. It's the things where you don't have to think. You just get a little bit of fuzz of, oh, that's funny, a cat on a skateboard. What's the next one? Oh my God, look, she fell off the stairs. Oh, something else. And it's not encouraging you to critically think. It's not encouraging you to kind of sit with your emotions. It's not encouraging you to learn anything or deep dive into any specific topic. It's just kind of thinking about firing neurotransmitters in your brain. And there's a price to be paid for that. There's a price to be paid for that short form content, lower consciousness, autopilot type behavior. And gambling, it really does, it fills that void. It ticks that box. It's it's so accessible on the smartphones these days. You can go into the toilet and gamble. If you're going to do drink or drugs, at least someone's probably going to have to see you source the product. You're probably going to give away some physical signs, visible signs that you are engaging in that activity. It absolutely pains me to say this, but I work in fitness, and back in my personal training days, I had a client who was warming up for a session once, and I think I lost about 800 or 900 pounds in the time that they were warming up, because I was doing 100-pound spins on William Hill roulette on my phone, kind of like landscape mode, making it look like I was making a note of our previous sessions, or I was planning what we were about to do. And I knew that they had a couple of minutes to do like dynamic, like warm-up stretches. And I mean, I've made other videos about where the gambling lunacy took me to, but that was just an example of just how I couldn't be present at that stage. I was so in the fog and so accelerated through the phases of addiction that the idea of just being able to sit there and engage with someone at a relatively more tedious part of the session was just impossible. And I think a lot of people really kind of struggle with that. I feel like our brains have been almost maladapted into a way that, is a real challenge. The third thing as well, and this is a subtle point, I think, is that in some ways the world isn't a very nice place at the moment. There is lots of conflict between different religious groups, between men and women, between different races, and cost of living crisis, potential World War III being rammed down our throat. A lot of the content that comes to the surface is quite polarizing and quite opinionated, and often quite negative, because we know that sparks interest more so in the human brain than the positive content. And it's very, very easy to feel overwhelmed by all of that, really, truly overwhelmed, and look for an escape. And for me, gambling was the perfect antidote to that feeling of being bored and wanting to get out of my head and feel different, kind of change my state. And I've been on a few Gamblers Anonymous meetings in the past, and really up until quite recently. And I know that addiction is an incredibly interwoven, complicated topic. But you just hear people speak sometimes, and they just do not know why they gamble. They can't stop, but something isn't right with their day-to-day living, and they just feel powerless. And I suppose I'm making light of what is a very, very complex topic here, because people become addicted for a myriad of different reasons. And, I'm not taking anything away from the severity of what those reasons could be that has kind of led to the manifestation of the addiction. But there is just this kind of almost this default of people wanting to escape themselves. And it takes a hell of a lot of proactivity to do almost like an aggressive audit of your life. Think about what you need to fix, think about what you need to change, think about maybe where you're weaker, where you operate on autopilot, where you go a little bit unconscious. It's hard to do that, and it takes introspective qualities that a lot of people, zero judgment, just don't have, or don't feel inclined to go towards the proactive nature to do that. So they just take the path of least resistance, which is how do I feel better now? How do I escape my current set of circumstances and feel better? Because that is what I'm absolutely desperate for. So I'm kind of glossing over a very, very complicated topic here, but I feel like these three reasons combined, and there's probably several others as well if I really thought about it, is what is really catapulting this addiction into just unknown territory of just problem after problem. The stats don't lie, the trajectory of the graphs just do not look good at all. The number of people that are reporting problems with gambling, you know, reaching out for help, putting themselves on, you know, some of the residential retreat type things like Gordon Moody or NHS support, that kind of, those places are being overwhelmed with applicants. And I think these are some of the reasons why. So the future will tell and time will tell where we go from here, but I like to operate this channel to raise awareness about gambling addictions. This is something that I struggled with for years and years and years, something I'm incredibly passionate about. And if I can put the slightest little dent in the universe and change the flow of the tide back in the right direction, then I absolutely will certainly try. So if you know anyone that struggles with this kind of cunning, powerful and baffling addiction, please feel free to share this video to them. Please like and subscribe if you can. It helps me support the channel, which in turn makes me reach more people. Again, this is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And thank you so much for taking the time out to watch this. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you in the next video very, very soon.